I don't know where to begin. Even now, when I think about that night, my whole body trembles and cold sweat forms on my forehead. But I have to tell this story. Maybe I can lighten the heavy burden I carry. My name is Jack Anderson, and this is my true story. A story that happened on one of the darkest nights of my life in the state of Maine, America. It all started with a simple trip. My friend Mike and I decided to go to a cabin in the dense forests of Maine for the weekend holiday. We thought this trip could be a break from city life and our stressful work. But we didn't know that this trip would turn into a horrifying nightmare. It was Friday afternoon when we arrived. The cabin was deep in the forest, and to get there we had to drive down a long dirt road. When we arrived, the sun was setting, and long shadows of trees were cast on the ground. The cabin was old and wooden, but it looked comfortable. We took our stuff inside and started to settle in. Mike suggested we make barbecue for dinner, and I agreed. While he was busy lighting the grill, I went into the forest to gather some firewood. That's when I first felt something wasn't right. I felt like someone or something was watching me. I turned and looked around, but saw nothing. Just tall trees and the darkness that was slowly enveloping everything. I tried to ignore this feeling and continued gathering firewood. When I returned, Mike had prepared the barbecue. We ate dinner in silence. Both of us were tired and didn't talk much. After dinner, we decided to go to bed early so we could wake up early tomorrow and explore the forest. It was midnight when I woke up to a strange sound. A sound like rustling leaves, as if someone was walking outside the cabin. At first, I thought it might be an animal, but then I heard heavy breathing coming from behind the window. My heart was pounding. I quietly got out of bed and went to the window. I pulled back the curtain and what I saw made my breath catch. Two glowing red eyes were staring at me in the darkness. Eyes that didn't belong to any animal I knew. I jumped back in terror and called out to Mike. He also woke up, and seeing my state, he realized something had happened. At that moment, we heard the sound of scratching at the door, as if someone or something was trying to get into the cabin. Mike grabbed the flashlight and went to the door. I begged him not to open it, but he didn't listen. When he opened the door, the flashlight beam fell on something that made us both scream. A creature that looked like a human, but with black, wrinkled skin, sharp teeth, and those same glowing red eyes was standing in front of the door. Mike slammed the door shut and locked it. A terrible roar came from outside, and then heavy blows struck the door. We knew the wooden door wouldn't last long. "We have to escape," Mike shouted. But how? The car was outside, and so was that creature. The only way was through the back window of the cabin. We hurriedly grabbed essential items and headed for the back window. We heard the main door breaking. We didn't have much time. Mike opened the window and I jumped out first, followed by him. As soon as our feet hit the ground, we started running. We heard a terrifying roar from behind us. We didn't dare to look back. We just ran, tree branches scratching our faces and hands, but we didn't care. I don't know how long we ran. My lungs were burning and my legs were giving out. But fear kept us running. Finally, we reached a road. We saw the lights of a car approaching. We waved our hands with all our might and shouted. Fortunately, the driver saw us and stopped. It was a middle-aged man who, seeing our disheveled state, immediately opened the door and let us in. As soon as we got in, we heard a growl from the edge of the forest. The driver, who was scared, put his foot on the gas, and we quickly drove away. On the way, we tried to explain to the driver what had happened, but even we didn't know exactly what we had seen. The driver took us to the nearest town, and we immediately went to the police station. The police officer listened to our story with skepticism. I was sure he didn't believe us, but when he said that they had received similar reports from that area in the past few months, we were shocked. The officer explained that several people had disappeared in that area, and some of those who had escaped told stories similar to ours. But no one had ever been able to explain exactly what lives in those woods. The police decided to send a team to investigate the area. Mike and I insisted on going with them. We knew it was dangerous, but we had to understand what had happened. The next morning, along with a team of 4 police officers and a wildlife expert, we headed towards the cabin. On the way, the wildlife expert, Dr. Sarah Johnson, explained that we might be dealing with an unknown species of animal. But Mike and I knew that what we had seen bore no resemblance to any ordinary animal. If you enjoyed it so far, please hit the subscribe button if you liked the video. When we reached the cabin, the scene we saw shocked us all. The entrance door had been completely torn off, and the inside of the cabin was totally ransacked. But what scared us the most were the giant paw prints visible on the walls and wooden floor of the cabin. Dr. Johnson turned pale at the sight of the paw prints. She said these prints didn't belong to any known animal. The officers started searching around, and Mike and I went with them. As we were searching around the cabin, we heard a scream from deep in the forest. We all froze. The sound was like a human scream, but there was something in it that made our hair stand on end. One of the officers suggested we move towards the sound. Although we were scared, we knew we had to find out what was going on. We started moving cautiously, guns ready, and our eyes searching for any suspicious movement. The further we went, the darker and denser the forest became. The sound of leaves crunching under our feet was the only sound we heard. Suddenly, one of the officers stopped and pointed ahead. Something was moving between the trees, just a few meters away from us. My heart was about to burst out of my chest. It was the same creature we had seen the night before. In the daylight, we could see more details. Its skin was black and leathery, with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth protruding from its mouth. But what shocked us the most was that the creature was holding something in its hands, a human corpse. The officers started shouting and shooting, but the bullets seemed to have no effect on the creature. The creature attacked us with incredible speed. We all started running, but the creature was faster. I heard one of the officers scream. When I turned back, I saw the creature had caught him and was tearing the officer's throat with its sharp teeth. The scene was so horrific that I couldn't turn my gaze away. Blood was splattered everywhere, and I could hear the sound of bones cracking. Dr. Johnson, who was close to me, shouted, "We have to get out of here, now!" But before we could move, the creature leaped towards us. Dr. Johnson pushed me away and placed herself in front of the creature. I saw the creature's sharp claws sink into Dr. Johnson's body and pull her towards itself. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to help, but I knew there was nothing I could do. In horror, I started running. I could hear Dr. Johnson's screams and the sound of her bones breaking, but I didn't dare to look back. I don't know how long I ran. I just know that when I stopped, it was dark and I was completely lost. I could hear a howl in the distance, and I knew that creature was still after me. In the darkness, I tried to find my way. Every sound made me jump. Leaves rustled and branches cracked. I didn't know if these sounds were from my movement or if something else was stalking me in the darkness. Suddenly, I saw a light in the distance. Hope sprouted in my heart. Maybe this light belonged to a house or a road. I ran towards the light with all my might. But as I got closer, I realized I had made a mistake. This light was from the glowing red eyes of that creature, staring at me in the darkness. My heart stopped. The creature was right in front of me, showing its bloody teeth and growling from its throat. I knew this was the end. I closed my eyes and waited for the final blow. But suddenly, I heard the sound of a gunshot. I opened my eyes and saw that the creature had been thrown back. It was Mike. He had managed to find me and arrived just in time. Mike grabbed my hand, and we started running. We could hear the angry roar of the creature behind us. Mike said he had found the police car and knew how to get out of the forest. As we ran, the sound of breaking branches and the creature's snarls got closer and closer. We knew that if we didn't reach the car, we wouldn't stand a chance. Finally, we saw the car. Mike opened the door, and I jumped in. He got in too and started the engine. At that very moment, the creature leaped out from between the trees and threw itself onto the car's hood. Mike hit the gas, and the car started moving at high speed. The creature was trying to break the windshield. It was dragging its claws across the glass, and the sound of glass scratching pierced our ears. Mike was swerving the car left and right to throw the creature off the hood. Finally, in a sharp turn, the creature lost its balance and was thrown off the car to the side of the road. We drove out of the forest at full speed. Neither of us said a word until we reached the town. When we finally stopped, we both started crying. We couldn't believe we had survived. We went to the police station and told them everything, but we knew no one would believe us. How could we explain what lives in that forest? In the days and weeks that followed, the police conducted extensive investigations in that area. The bodies of 2 officers and Dr. Johnson were found, but there was no trace of that creature. The official report stated that probably a bear or another wild animal was responsible for these attacks. But Mike and I know the truth is something else. We saw something that shouldn't exist, something that still appears in our nightmares and makes us wake up screaming. I have never gone to the forest again. Even the sound of rustling leaves or breaking branches terrifies me. Every night, before going to sleep, I make sure all doors and windows are locked. But I know that no lock can stop that creature. If it ever decides to come to the city, sometimes when I look at the night sky, I think I see those red eyes staring at me from between the trees. And I know that creature is still out there, waiting and hungry. This is my story. A story I live with every day, and every time I tell it, I'm afraid that maybe, just maybe, by telling it, I might attract that creature to me again. But I have to tell this story. Maybe one day someone will believe it and be able to stop that creature before it's too late. The end. Or maybe not, because in the dark depths of Maine's forests, something is moving. Something that's waiting to hunt again. And maybe you'll be next.